What is up, everyone? LJ over here from PlayerEssence, and welcome to the PE Nintendo Switch news video, in addition to a chat video too, because there's a couple things that I want to talk about when it comes to the whole gaming industry and when it comes to Nintendo Switch and what you should be getting just based on what you guys asked me as far as questions go. So let's go ahead and get into this first topic here, and that is Final Fantasy 15 Director. He has talked about the Nintendo Switch again. We do know that Square Enix is bringing a couple titles to Nintendo Switch so far that we've heard about. So we have I Am Setsuna, which is coming at launch at the Nintendo Switch, classic RPG, and we also have Project Octopath that's also coming to Nintendo Switch, in addition to a bunch of Dragon Quest games, Dragon Quest Heroes 1 and 2. We also have Dragon Quest 11 as well, and Dragon Quest 10, so we'll see when those games get localized. But yes, a lot of good stuff coming from Square Enix to Nintendo Switch, but a lot of people really want the Final Fantasy games to come to Nintendo Switch as well. And the director of Final Fantasy 15, Hajime Tabata, has actually talked about the Nintendo Switch, saying that it's kind of a dream machine, and this sparked a lot of conversation and a lot of stupid comments from people on Nintendo Everything. Nintendo Everything's a great site, but there's a lot of people that are there that think that they're developers and they're not, and it's just funny how they just talk about technology. It's hilarious. But anyway, let's go ahead and get right into the actual content here when it comes to what he said, Tabata said about the Nintendo Switch, because he talked about it before, and we'll get into it. So, given my track record, I've worked on handheld titles, but I've also worked on console games. So the fact that the Switch has both in the same is really fascinating to me. I'm really interested in coming up with ideas on how to capitalize on that technology and how to create the best experience possible on the technology. But I'm not quite sure that I have it yet. You have your Switch sitting in front of your television and you're playing on the big screen, and then you take it out, put it on the table, it becomes a monitor. You take out the Joy-Cons and you play with a friend. It doesn't stop there, because in my mind, it really would be perfect if you can take this new monitor and use it like a tablet. For example, you can play different apps like you would on an iPhone and on Android. So basically, it's accomplishing 3 tasks in one machine. It's kind of like a dream machine. While I may not be working on anything for it at this point in time, a lot of people on staff are really interested in Nintendo Switch, myself included. Many of the people on the dev team are older, they're married, they have kids. One of the things they'd like to do is create something they could play with their children, or that their children could play on their own, for example. Tabata also went on to talk about the nature of the Nintendo Switch, how he believes it's more than a transitional device of sorts, than a replacement for the Wii U and Nintendo 3DS. You have Nintendo Switch, and you have smartphones. I'm really not sure if handheld gaming will still run on dedicated systems, or whether they'll be on machines or devices that allow you to game and do other things. It's hard to say. It could be like cloud gaming, something that for a long time people have said, oh, this is the future. Maybe the future is cloud gaming. But it hasn't taken off as much as people had anticipated. Maybe once it becomes a little more mainstream, when things are a little bit more clear on what happens on the client side and what happens on the server side, then things really start to take off. If cloud gaming then becomes mainstream, I don't think it's outside the realm of possibility that you're able to pick up a game on your phone and start playing a little bit, then say, oh, you know what? I want to play on the big screen, and put down and play the exact same thing, pick it up where you left off on the television. Okay, so he goes on a bunch of different things here, especially in that second half. So let's talk about the first half first. And once again, guys, I'm terribly sorry about my voice. I'm still feeling a little under the weather, but I am getting a little bit better here and there, but just bear with me as far as the videos go. So in the first half, he talks about the whole dream machine type of thing, and I think that Tabata, when it comes to Square Enix, this device is far more appealing. Square Enix has always been involved, and he even said himself, they've made handheld games before. They've always been involved with Nintendo 3DS with portable gaming. Obviously, we saw Bravely Default, we saw Final Fantasy like Chronicles games, we've seen various stuff from them, Kingdom Hearts Dream Drop Distance. So Square Enix has always been involved in creating Final Fantasy games and creating different types of handheld games. Even like Heroes of Ruin was a game from them, old school. You guys remember that Heroes of Ruin game for the Nintendo 3DS? So they've always created 3DS games or published 3DS games, but really that's been like the split with them. It's like, okay, well, how do we do 3DS games and also Nintendo console games? There's just one gets more attention than the other. Even the Wii, the most popular home console Nintendo's ever done, they didn't get a lot of stuff from Square Enix. Got a couple things here and there. Got a Final Fantasy game that was a Crystal Bearers type of game. Definitely wasn't anything necessarily that was going to blow you away or anything like that. So what are they going to do going forward? And I think that's where he kind of says it's kind of like a dream machine, because they've worked with technology before in the past as far as handheld, and then you also have the consoles there, and which one do you develop for? But now you have this one device that can do it all. I'm betting Tabata plays a lot of smartphone games like on the go and stuff like that, just basically in between development and things, and that's why he's thinking, hey, like if this can play Android games as well, it can be like an NVIDIA Shield tablet, which I have one of these right here, an NVIDIA Shield K1, one of these NVIDIA Shield K1 tablets, and they are absolutely amazing. These are $200 and you don't get anything but just this. You don't even get a power cable to charge it. Okay, it just uses a normal USB like 2.0. So this is all you get when you buy one. It's $200, and everyone online says these are amazing. And I was like, all right, I'll try it out. And the K1 tablet is very good. The graphics capabilities, it's still nowhere near the Nintendo Switch, but it's still a very good system for just playing video games, and it's very good for Android apps. Heck, you can stream my Fire Emblem Hero stuff that I did. That was all based just on here. I actually was live streaming, or not live streaming, but I was actually recording the gameplay and uploading basically just straight from this tablet itself. No other hardware needed. So it's a really good device. So I'm thinking that's where he would want it to go maybe in the future. The Nintendo Switch is not built like that though. It is built differently. It's built to prioritize gaming first and foremost. The OS is very, very light. I think it would be difficult for them to add everything that this device has because they're just very different. But I see what he was trying to say. If there's like specialized apps that can easily be built on the Nintendo Switch, like easily, like with the ARM processor and all that, Integra, you can easily build like an Android app and say, okay, it's going to be on the Nintendo Switch. I'm going to release this game for the Nintendo Switch. So that wouldn't be a problem. So I can see where he's coming from there. When it comes to the Dream Machine, it's just like he says, everything built into one. And I think that's where he could develop something that would be kind of cool. I think, personally, I think that the Final Fantasy 15 development, the way that it went with those systems, I don't think that's an efficient way of doing things. You saw how long it took. You saw the process of it. I just don't feel that in the end, do people really want to wait that long? Do people really want to take this much time in order to develop this type of game? So I think going forward with the team, as far as development goes, I think it would be way easier and better for them if they did kind of scale things back just a notch in order to get a game that can be developed like in a good amount of time. And I personally feel that if they incorporated all of the systems, and I think the systems that would really do well for their type of game, which would be like the PS4 and would be the Nintendo Switch, Japanese RPG, they could really make something good, and they can make it full of content, and they can make it the type of Final Fantasy games that people really loved on the PS1. I think that they focus way too much on other things when it came to Final Fantasy 15. I still feel Final Fantasy 15 is a great game, but there's a lot of needless stuff that's in that game. I think the engine is a little bit too complex and heavy for these type of systems, and overall I think if they're trying to be that ambitious, it should have just been like a PC game completely, or it should have been on PC so it can run effectively. Even with the PS4 Pro, there's still some issues with that much anticipated patch. There's still some problems with it. So overall, like I said, I think going forward what they would do, it would be better for them just to scale things back just a little bit and really focus on content and really focus on the gameplay more than anything, because Final Fantasy 15 in general just feels a little bit more focused on graphics and kind of the other things than on the content and gameplay 100%. Now, I think Final Fantasy games going forward should be like that. Obviously, they've always been, big tech games and everything, but look at what it's doing over the past decade or so. Final Fantasy's been having a rough stretch when it comes to the main games. There's no other way to put it out there. So I think Tabitha, Square Enix, if you scale things back, and if you pay attention to what Nintendo's doing with the Switch, in addition to where your base is going to be at the most, which would be PS4 and Nintendo. Obviously, Nintendo Switch, PS4, Sony, Nintendo, those are going to be your two bases. Focus on that. Make sure your next game can run on both of those devices, and I think that you're going to do good. I think that Final Fantasy can definitely recover more, because Final Fantasy 15 is very polarizing. I like it, but a lot of people really don't like it. Some people really love it, some people really hate it. So I mean, it is what it is there. So hopefully Tabitha can create something, and it would be great going forward. I'm moving on to the next part of my discussion here. I do want to talk about the Nintendo Switch when it comes to SD cards. Like, should you get one? What type of SD card should you get? And all of that going forward. Now, here's the thing, guys. I'm an old school gamer. I've always been an old school gamer. I feel like there's nothing wrong with going out and buying a physical cartridge. There's like nothing wrong with that. I know people try to talk about convenience, but it really doesn't come down to convenience. It comes down to just being lazy. Some people want to just be lazy, and they do not want to swap out cartridges. And here's the reason why I think with Nintendo Switch, like you really shouldn't worry about an SD card at this point. Like, you really shouldn't. You should wait. I think that's the best thing to do, is to wait, because every single game, as far as main big games go, okay, those are going to be on cartridge. Like, they're all going to be on cartridge. So like, if you want to play, for example, Zelda, there's a cartridge for that. If you want to play Dragon Quest Heroes 1 and 2 whenever that comes out, you don't need to download that. Just buy a cartridge on there. When you get a Nintendo Switch, you're probably going to want a carrying case when you take it out anyway. That carrying case is going to have slots for you to put your games into. I mean, I would get a carrying case with slots to put your games into, so that way you can just switch out the game right then and there. I would not worry about going all digital just because it's a portable device. And another reason why I say that is because one of the big advantages of cartridges is how fast it is, especially the actual cartridge itself. It's going to read games very fast. It's going to load very fast. Now, unless you have a top of the line micro SD XC card for bigger storage capacity, that's more than 32 gigabytes, definitely it's not going to be as fast just based on the timing. Obviously, you have to look at the speeds because the speeds will vary depending on what micro SD card that you do get. And if you look at the micro SD cards, you can actually see the class. There'll be numbers and there'll be things on there to where you can actually see how fast it'll be. That's not going to be as fast as the game just running on a cartridge. Well, it needs to be more testing, but that would be the general, basis of things, just based on how SD cards work and actually having to load on there compared to the actual cartridge itself. So personally for me, I'm giving people advice like, hey, all of the big games, you just buy those physically. So like Dragon Quest Heroes, Xenoblade, Mario Kart, buy all those physically. And then all the digital games that are like only digital, like for example, Fast RMX. I don't think that's going to have a physical copy, at least at this point. You just get that digitally. Most of these digital games that are coming to Nintendo Switch, most of them are not more than a gigabyte or two. So if you have 26 gigabytes available on your internal memory for the Nintendo Switch, that is plenty. You're going to be able to fit a bunch of different games. Like I Am Setsuna is like 1 point something gigabytes. I think the biggest game that I've seen that's only digital is like a couple gigabytes at this point. So you're going to be able to fit a lot of different games with the onboard memory if you just buy your bigger games physical. So that's just one thing that I want to say. I always advise people, don't worry about buying an SD card at this point. Maybe down the line buy one, but there's no point, especially with this generation, because it seems like Nintendo is going to be incorporating, as far as physical games, being able to earn points and rewards, unlike that they did with like the Wii and the Wii U, where it's all digital. Yes, you're probably going to need some more or extra memory because of the Digital Deluxe program that Nintendo launched. Yeah, you're probably going to want some more memory for something like that because you're going to want to download bigger games even digitally as well. But they're not doing that this time because they realized that kind of screwed them with their own system when it came to how much memory they actually gave people. So this time, they're just doing it to where you're going to be able to have physical games and earn points. I feel that you should really just hold off on an SD card at this point. I don't really see any advantages of really going all digital. The inconvenience of not changing a cartridge here or there, you know what I'm saying, isn't a big enough thing. And I don't think I'm going to be switching games enough to even do that when it comes to bigger games. That's why I said, like with the smaller games, yes, obviously you don't have an option, but the onboard memory is enough. It's sufficient for multiple games, tons of games. You could probably be able to download all of the launch titles and still have memory, then get all of the big games. Once again, like I said, like Legend of Zelda, all that, physical, and be fine. So I feel that's the way that everyone should go at this point. I don't think that you need to go out there and spend money on a card or anything like that. So let me know what you guys think about this discussion in the comment section below. I would love to hear you guys' thoughts. Alright guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Go ahead and hit that like button if you did like it. Let me know you guys want more content like this going forward in the future. And subscribe to PlayerEssence for the latest news, reviews, discussions, and more. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you ninjas for the next video. Peace!